The big story tonight. This week, we received some great economic results, but also some disappointing data. Let's start with the good news.
In the second quarter, we smashed all expectations. Consumer spending is up. Business investment is way up. Domestic manufacturing is way up. Real disposable family income is up. And personal savings are up. We have the hottest country. And I'll tell you, it's a great, we're having a lot of fun with it.
By most measures, the economy is roaring. GDP grew 3%, surpassing the 2.4% growth that the Wall Street expected. But yesterday's employment data threw a wrench in the strong growth, as the economy only added 73,000 jobs in July. And the job increases for May and June were to revise downward big time, ticking the unemployment rate up slightly to 4.2%. President Trump reacted strongly to the drastic employment error, firing the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who is in charge of compiling the employment numbers each month and was appointed by President Biden in 2024. Lucas Tomlinson joins us live from Bedminster, New Jersey, with the latest. Hi there, Lucas.
Good evening, Jerry. With the Senate still in session, working through the weekend to try to confirm more of President Trump's nominees, the president taking to Truth Social to sound off about the delay, saying, quote, and it's a long one, Jerry, I'm going to speed through this. He's writing about an hour ago, quote, very proud of our great Republican senators for fighting over the weekend and far beyond, if necessary, in order to get my great appointments approved and on their way to helping us make America great again. The radical left Democrat senators are doing everything possible to delay these wonderful and talented people from being approved. If George Washington or Abraham Lincoln were up for approval, the Dems would delay as long as possible, then vote them out. The Democrats want our country to fail because they have failed. Thank you to Senator John Thune and our Republican warriors in the Senate. Fight and win. I'm with you all the way, DJT. Now, before departing for here in New Jersey, President Trump also sounding off about the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics that he just sacked over those job numbers that you just read.
I think her numbers were wrong, just like I thought her numbers were wrong before the election. Days before the election, she came out with these beautiful numbers for Kamala.
Many Democrats were not thrilled with the move.
President Trump's response was to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I worked for a global manufacturing business. One of the things that makes the United States a trustworthy place for investment and for business is that we trust the numbers. If we don't like the numbers, we don't fire the messenger. We work harder.
Now, more of those nominees are not confirmed. The Senate could remain in session for all of August, not be able to go on recess and vacation, spending time with constituents. Jerry?
Lucas, thank you for that. Well, the headline number doesn't tell the full story of the jobs report. Looking deeper into the data, the subpar number can partially be explained by President Trump's commitment to reducing the size of our bloated federal government.
At the same time, we dramatically slashed government spending for the second quarter in a row, down nearly 4%. We have reduced the federal workforce. So these are private jobs that are coming back to our country. Federal jobs are being cut.
Slashing waste, fraud, and abuse in federal bureaucracies is showing up in the economic data as government employment is down by 84,000 since reaching a peak in January. So while there are fewer government jobs, the overall economy is still in a great position. And you don't have to believe Trump. Just ask Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, certainly not the president's favorite person.
The economy is in a solid position. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment.
But Democrats are pouncing on the jobs report to claim everything is a disaster, repeating the same doom and gloom narrative from earlier this year that turned out to be completely wrong.
This is the inevitable outcome of the economic chaos that President Trump is causing.
Donald Trump inherited what was the strongest economy in the world, and by chaos and tariffs, he's really running it aground.
The chickens are coming home to roost on Donald Trump's destructive trade war, and the American people are paying the price. You sow chaos, Donald Trump, you reap chaos.
Well, business as usual for the Democrats. Joey, I'm coming to you first. You heard the president. He said consumer spending is up, consumer savings is up, middle class incomes are doing well. Are you worried about these numbers we got Friday in the jobs report?
I'm not worried about them because I don't know how to be worried about them because I'm not an economist. And when you tell me that unemployment is 4.2% rather than 4.1%, it equates to roughly, I think, 100,000 or so Americans. I don't know what that means to my life. Where are those jobs? Who are those people? Are those people that are going onto the government dime? Are they people who are cashing out and retiring? I don't understand those numbers well enough. But numbers I do understand because they actually affect my life. My mother's trying to sell her house right now in Georgia. And the trend on housing prices in Texas and Florida, the price of a home is going down. In the Midwest and Northeast, the house is going up. And in California, which is kind of a world of its own, they call it a frozen market. Housing prices are staying the same. So what does that mean? That means that if you live in California or New York and you want to sell your home and move to Texas or Florida, you're going to cash in. You're going to buy something cheaper, sell something higher, and do well. So those people probably are thinking, wow, this economy is really good for me. But if you're trying to move to one of those areas, you're thinking, I'm going to be in an apartment forever. Housing prices matter most to young people. And those are the people that Donald Trump won over and is continuing to win over. So I think it depends on where you are in this economy.
It's location, location,
exactly.
Location as always. Molly, to you, I'm looking at these numbers that we got from the Labor Department, from BLS. We have a $28 trillion economy. It's the biggest in the world. If you tell me that economy only created 14,000 jobs in May and 19,000 in June, I'm thinking, I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. What do you think?
Wow. Well, oh, golly. I don't know that we put it on me to explain the economic numbers because I certainly can't do that. But I am concerned about all the revisions that have been happening. So
that's what we're talking about.
Yes. So when you take this information and they dump it in the stock market and the businesses and people are making decisions about that, governments are making decisions about it based on these numbers, I want to know that they're at least coming in accurate. And when we keep seeing revision after revision, I looked into that and there are recent reports talking about how this has been an underlying problem for many years, and that they're not looking into or broadening the surveys to bring in enough businesses to get accurate information about the numbers of hundreds of thousands of people that are out there working or, as some of the report notes, not working, and are they looking for jobs? That's what I'm concerned about, is when they talk about trusting the numbers, can we trust those numbers?
I think that was the big question from Friday. Schumer, of course, Chuck Schumer is floating a conspiracy that the GDP number is a mirage, the 3% number that looks so good out there. Listen.
And while the Trump administration will try to wave rosy headlines about the Q2 number, today's GDP number is in fact a mirage because some ominous numbers lurk under the hood. Donald Trump's tariffs are weighing down the U.S. economy, spiking costs for small businesses and families alike.
Joe, is that all politics, my friend?
Yeah, because this is the same clown back in April that said the economy absolutely was headed towards a recession in Q2. Recession, of course, is negative growth, and instead we get 3%, and now he's calling it a mirage. I agree, by the way, with President Trump firing the labor stats official, because forget like the last 2 months. During Biden, 45 of 48 months were revised downwards after the fact. So something has to be done. If you're wrong almost every time for 4 years, well, I'm sorry, you're gone. You got to lose your job there. Overall, 4.2% historically is quite good. Obviously, 84,000 jobs, as you reported, slashed from the federal government. And we all remember Ronald Reagan's most famous 9 words, which is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right? So that's the whole thing, that if we're slashing government, we're reducing it, unemployment's low, growth is up, wages are up. Right now, all I know is that not just Chuck Schumer, but Paul Krugman, the Nobel Prize-winning Pulitzer economist, said that the tariffs would be an utter failure. That's when you knew they would work, because it's the same guy who said the internet would have the impact on the economy the same way the fax machine would, and predicted a global recession when Donald Trump was elected in 2016. So I'd say overall, things are going quite well right now.
Things are going quite well. I would love to see lower interest rates. So we'll see if that happens.
Agreed.
There's a lot of news on the trade front as well, including the incredible success President Trump's tariffs are having on revenue. Listen.
Critics said that our tariffs would hurt the economy, but the data shows the exact opposite. The U.S. Treasury has taken in $150 billion from tariffs, and we'll be adding about $200 billion next month.
All right, the tariffs have also been a great tool in trade negotiations. Most recently, the president struck a deal with South Korea, which will include a $350 billion investment by that country, which Trump will direct, apparently. And Trump upheld his August 1st deadline on imposing a tariff of 15% or more on goods from countries with which we have a trade deficit, which raises the question, now that these countries know Trump is serious about his tariff deadline, will they come to the negotiating table? All right, Joey, you jump in here, my man.
Yeah, so tariffs are one of these things that you can't sit here and predict how they're going to turn out. Where we are today, I mean, this August 1st deadline is 24 hours old. The tariffs have been a net positive for us. I talked to a buddy of mine. He makes suits. He imports the material. And I said, you know, how does this work? And he said, well, the producer is eating some of it. The distributor's eating some of it. I've eaten a little bit of it, but I've gotten more business. Things look fine for me right now. I can't tell you that's the way it is across the board, but that's kind of where this is settled. We haven't seen the change in prices that was predicted through these tariffs. So you have to kind of say, okay, well, maybe Trump's strategy works. The problem is Americans care about right now, today, how it affects them. They don't care about, hey, this builds our economy and our resilience in an economy that's 70% service economy. This puts us in a better position for the future. We may say we care about that, but really, I mean, we're worried about interest rates and what we can do. And so if these tariffs go into effect, or that have gone into effect in August, turn into higher prices in December, then that's a bad spot. I'm not predicting that'll happen. I'm saying it's an if because we don't know.
We don't know. And Molly, you know, would love to see more manufacturing jobs in our economy. I think it'd be great if Americans were making more things that people used and bought in this country. And I know there's a lot of support for that. It seems to me this tariff policy could get us there.
Well, that is the referenced goal. You know, President Trump has been very open about that's the plan, is to bring more jobs home. And we'll see how that develops. As you mentioned, Joey, it may take years before we actually see that happening. And we'll see as companies begin to invest and if the hiring begins, and then we'll see different things in the job numbers. All that'll come to effect. My curiosity right now, just in the immediate coming weeks, as some of these deadlines have passed, is what this means for countries that have yet to make the deal, that are in the back end of the deal making. Will it work out better or worse for them? And is there an incentive for them to get on board and to join these other countries that are making deals now?
That is going to be interesting to see. I always thought the best position was the pole position, but we'll see, right? All right, I want you to hear this thought from Powell. He's talking about keeping interest rates steady. Listen.
Higher tariffs have begun to show through more clearly to prices of some goods, but their overall effects on economic activity and inflation remain to be seen. It is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent, and that is a risk to be assessed and managed.
All right, so this is why Powell says he doesn't want to cut interest rates, Joe. And let's keep in mind here, credit card interest rates at 7%. Yep. Americans have over $1 trillion worth of credit card debt. We've got mortgage rates at 7%, keeping a lot of people out of the market, really holding down the market. Is Powell on the wrong road here?
Powell should be on the road to retirement and be a beach badge checker somewhere. Because, as you mentioned, like, you know, mortgage rates are like through the roof right now.
Yeah.
And all I know is if you want to say, well, is Jerome Powell, you know, a political operative? Well, gee, he really loved cutting interest rates before the election last year. And now suddenly is really hesitant to do so and keeps talking about how tariffs may raise prices and there's risk around that. Well, you know, he seems to be wrong over and over again on this stuff. Fortunately, I think his time is done next January, and I think we'll have Scott Bessent as our Fed chairman, and I think we'll have a more sensible person in there. But for now, he's just always a day late and a dime short, this guy.
Well, we'll see what happens. It could happen quicker than that. I think there are machinations going on even this weekend.
Oh, good.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.